Behavioural science makes a fundamental contribution to understanding how we're going to adapt and how we're going to change behaviour in the face of climate change. Climate change is fundamentally a human problem, and we need immense change in human behaviour to address the challenges that climate and climate risks are going to bring to us. Behavioural science, which is a science all about understanding behaviour, theories, models, our ability to predict, our ability to explain how behaviour is going to change, is crucial to understanding the impacts of climate.
So with behavioural science, we're really studying what people think, feel and do about climate change, and we can use that to understand why some people are really motivated to act on climate change and why people are less motivated, and how we can change their behaviour. We've seen in recent years that people will go out and protest if they're opposed to climate policy. So I think it's really important to use behavioural science to understand that polarisation on climate change and what climate policies might be more palatable to different groups.
Right now, there are lots of models out there. There is something absent in most of those kind of models: individual behavior. As far as I know, there are lots of estimates out there, but for one of them is that 80% of CO2 emissions is coming from consumer behavior. But if you look at the models, there is no individual behavior here. And that's where behavioral policy or behavioral economics can help.
So I think often when we ask people what will make a difference to people's motivation to act on climate change, they'll say things like giving them information about the problem, but we know that that's not very effective. So with behavioural science, we can inform different communication campaigns, and we can use the methods of behavioural science to test different ways of talking about climate change that might resonate with different groups.
So behavioral science can help us understand people's motivations and biases that go a long way in informing climate action. It can also help in designing thoughtful interventions that focus on habit formation and the adoption of sustainable practices. One of the surveys that we ran last year with the help of Dr. Ben Newell from the Institute helped us understand some barriers to sustainable actions as perceived by Australians. It indicated that the key top-of-mind barrier for many was finance-related, particularly to do with the cost of making these sustainable changes, the long-term benefits of it, and the financing that might be available to make these changes.
A key contribution behavioural science can make to climate action is understanding and solving for the intention-action gap. We've done some research to quantify this gap, and we've found that 60% of Australians want to do something, but only 40% do so. Behavioural science can also help us to solve for this gap by enabling people to follow through on their intentions.
I think once we take the lens of behavioural science to organisations who are trying to address climate and climate risk and climate action, then what it tells us is that we can think about how consumer patterns of behaviour are going to change. It can tell us how to integrate risk frameworks across organisations, and at each step think about what's the behavioural implication. What is the way we're going to communicate both internally and externally with stakeholders, and use the insights from behavioural science to try and drive that innovative approach.